So this is the Year in Review show. Thank you to everybody who's listened to the Token CEO this year. The warmest hug I've gotten this year is from people who actually listen to this thing and who somehow take a little kernel of something we've talked about and brought it into their own life and done something even better with it. So huge thank you to everyone who's supported me, who's supported this show, who supports Barstool Sports, and who believes in the fact that women can be hugely successful at work, and that anybody, whether you're a woman or a man or who you name it, that anyone can be successful and be themselves. I believe in that more than anything, and I'm so grateful, especially this year, to be at a place that embraces all different types of people in all different types of situations in all different phases of their life, and who really, a company that is so inclusive of weird people, weird moments, controversy, struggle, challenges, and yet gets up every day and tries to figure everything out. So that's kind of the same is true here. This is our year in review show. So what we're going to do is to share with you our favorite moments from the past year. All right, so first up, we've got Billy Football. Billy Football tells the story of how he was a fan of Barstool Sports, an intern of Barstool Sports, finally got a job at Barstool Sports, and how he ended up in the ring with Jose Canseco. Okay, Billy Football. All right. Billy Football, explain who you are and how you got here.
Perfect. Well, number one, thank you so much for having me on. So my senior year of high school, I, William Cotter, was looking for an internship for the summer going into my freshman year playing football. In the spring, my high school usually sent people out to go get internships, so you wouldn't be around school and slacking off and doing stuff.
So flash forward, you are fighting in Rough N Rowdy. We are having Rough N Rowdy, I think it's Rough N Rowdy 13 this Friday night. Mm-hmm. So it's in West Virginia. Mm-hmm. We are going to be at the Hollywood Casino, and you are fighting Jose Canseco. So for people listening to this, I'll give a backdrop on Rough N Rowdy, and then you give a backdrop on why Big Cat and Jose Canseco hate each other and how we got here. So, all right. So Rough N Rowdy, Dave and Gaz had gone to Rough N Rowdy years ago. It's like one of the most legendary Barstool videos. Like Dave was in a tuxedo. They were in West Virginia. They had one camera, which was Gaz, and they just showcased this circus of brawlers and ring girls and just mayhem and chaos. And I remember Dave and I were talking about it. We'd just gotten fired by ESPN. So we'd just gotten fired by ESPN, and Dave and I were like, we need to do something on our own. I know what we're going to do. We're going to do Rough N Rowdy. So Dave had gone in March of 2017, and we did another one night in West Virginia. It was amazing. I think Caleb and Roan went, and it was, and the thing that's so funny about Rough N Rowdy is it's just so weird. Like it's just a weird environment, and the dead air and the fighting and the characters, it just plays well. And Dave is genius at it. So we did a one night pay-per-view. We like stood the tech up with this like piece of shit company out of the UK. It was a disaster. Like the whole thing was a disaster, but we loved it. People loved it. And then flash forward, we get fired from ESPN in October. And then we're like, okay, let's just buy Rough N Rowdy. Let's make this a thing. So we are now on our 13th event. We do like 4 to 6 a year. It's like, I think it's like WWE meets parking lot fighting meets characters with no teeth, too many teeth, horses, hair, whips, chains, like just ridiculous shit. But I think it's wildly entertaining. And then you put Robbie Fox, you put Dave Portnoy, you put Big Cat there.
Exactly.
We're adding Troops is going to be there this trip, which you didn't even know, which will be amazing.
It's awesome.
Which, for someone who covers Premier League, he'll either be like, this is the trashiest, worst thing ever, or it's amazing. So that's what's coming up tomorrow night. So tell us Jose Canseco and how we got here.
So, A-Rod and Jose Canseco, way back when, had a little bit of a feud. There's talks, allegedly, Jose Canseco, former ex-wife, there was some sort of involvement with A-Rod and questions of infidelity on A-Rod's part to J.Lo, which Canseco voiced and repeatedly voiced he wanted to get into a boxing match with A-Rod. 2 years ago, Big Cat, who is a employee of A-Rod Corp, officially, came to his boss's defense in A-Rod and said I would fight Jose Canseco at a Rough N Rowdy event, and he thinks he could have beat him. Fast forward to the present, December 21st, I want to say. Jose came at Big Cat on Twitter, posted videos and quotes of Big Cat saying he would want to get into a celebrity boxing match with Jose Canseco. Now, Big Cat probably in that moment was like, oh man, I'm going to have to eat my own words. But luckily, he had a asset in his intern to step up to the plate. And, honestly, it's a great opportunity for me. So why not do it?
Okay, so Jose Canseco wants to fight A-Rod, gets a supplement of Big Cat who punts it to his intern, and that's you. And tomorrow night you're fighting Jose Canseco.
Yeah, and
who's almost 60 years away. So how tall is Jose Canseco?
He's 6'4". I think.
How tall are you?
I'm about 6'4". I think we're gonna look eye to eye at the weigh-in. I'm not too concerned about the weight difference because a lot of that weight is non-functional muscle.
Okay, what is the weight difference?
The weight difference, I'm about a lean 215 right now.
Okay.
I was starting before training. I was about close to 230, but I've leaned out. Jose's claiming to be 270, but in his playing days, when he was even bigger than he was now, he was only 245.
Okay.
So I don't really believe the 270.
Okay.
If he shows up to the weigh-in and he's 270, honestly, at that point, it's not even an advantage to be that heavy. Okay. Because he still has to move all of that.
Down.
Yeah.
All right. So, and you're how old now?
I'm 22. Just turned 22.
So we've got a 22-year-old fighting a 56-year-old former baseball star.
Yep.
Current, pardon my take, superstar intern. How do you think the fight's going to go? Like, what's your prediction on it?
It's everyone, the one thing is the one, red herring, I guess, if you will, is they say that Jose has insane punch power. And that
really?
I'm going to get hit by the same power that he hit home runs 500 feet.
But that's your core. It's not your arms.
Right. And get, totally knocked out within the first 30 seconds. That just, isn't very realistic.
Then we went to Marla Aaron's jewelry shop. So Marla Aaron's Escape on West 47th Street. It's amazing. She is a woman who, like me, started in advertising, worked her way up the ranks, realized it wasn't for her, had an epiphany, and started a world-renowned jewelry brand. I like that you say that you're pretending to be a jewelry designer. I think everybody is pretending to be something.
Totally agree.
Talk about your path here, because it is not conventional.
No, not at all. I spent almost maybe 23 years in marketing and advertising in a variety of jobs that I like to say I was not very good at. And my last job was as the head of communications for a division of McCann.
Okay.
And that was a very, it's probably a good job, right? But in my spare time, I was designing jewelry. Like, it was my secret.
Always in your head, designing.
In my head. Yeah. No, I would spend my lunch hours here on 47th Street. I would walk into buildings and be like, who am I going to call? Who am I going to bother today? And I would walk in the building and I would just try and get people. I had the idea and I was trying to make the locks. And then I started making the locks and giving the locks away. This is while I had my real job. And, we had 2 kids. I'd gotten remarried, and my husband was like, "Oh my God, that's a big risk. You really
What are you thinking, Marla?
What are you thinking?" Yeah. And people would be like, "That's nice." I think people had a vision that I was just going to stay home and bead. I think it was like this vision of what
Marla crafts on weekends.
Yeah, crafts, Etsy. But, I really, really felt strongly about it. And it all came to a head. I had a business trip in France. I know that sounds glamorous. It sucked. And
those advertising business trips where everyone is like, you're going to the Cannes.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, Cannes. You're going to the Cannes Festival.
Yep.
Everyone's like, that's going to be such a great time. You're like, it's actually such a slog. Hell. You have to stay up 300 hours a day and entertain people constantly.
It's hell on earth.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, not really, but yes, hell on
Ish.
earth.
Yeah.
Ish. I went, and the day I arrived, I was going for 10 days. I decided not to stay in a hotel with my boss and the team. I decided to rent an apartment. I arrived, and a coffee pot exploded on my arm, and I had 3rd-degree burns all over my arm. It was really bad. So I was sick and I had to slog through the business trip. I'm sure you've been there. And I was just enraged. You know, I was upset. I was in France. I was on the business trip.
You didn't feel good?
No, I didn't feel good. My kids were leaving for camp without me saying goodbye to them, which was like great.
Eating at you.
It was like a perfect storm. And I just turned to a colleague and I was like, you know, there's enough people here from our team. I don't need to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going home and I'm resigning and I'm going to make jewelry. And I literally went home, and on the plane ride home, I made a very silly PowerPoint presentation to my husband about why this made sense for him.
This is why this is good for you.
Yeah. This is why it's good for you. You know, there was like a French maid icon. There was like, you know, all kinds of things in it, that I'd be home more.
Sure.
And
lies.
But I think he couldn't say no to me when I got home. I mean, my arm was wrapped up to here. I mean, it would be very hard to say no.
Yeah.
And he said, okay.
And you were convicted.
I was convicted. Yeah, I was in. And so I gave it a shot, you know.
And how many years ago was this?
2012.
Okay.
2012. But I will say that the first year, I was very bad at it because I decided to consult and do the jewelry at the same time.
Okay, so you were so this is actually interesting. Half in, because I think
half-assing it.
Yeah,
half-assing everything.
But also because it's scary, like what you were talking about. You were going from dual income to a single income. Yeah, I'm sure your husband and everyone was like, "There's enough jewelry designers in the world. What's going to make you different?"
Yeah, like, you know, the face.
Sure.
There's a certain face when you tell people, "Yeah, I left my job and I'm going to design jewelry." There's like a face that people make. Mm-hmm. So that was the face. So I took some consulting gigs, and I realized at the end of that year that I was getting nowhere. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just like, I was a terrible consultant and I was a terrible jewelry designer. I wasn't doing either thing. So I sat down with my husband and I said, I'm pulling the rug out. Like, I'm stopping all the consulting and I'm just going to go hard at this, like very hard. There will be no income from nothing, just this. And I started, and my kids, now my kids come into it, were tweens at the time. And so on that front, I was battling with them about social media, and I was battling with them about, you know, use of the phone, and that the phone was really mine, and that Instagram was the devil, and all of these things. But as I'm starting the business, and
I need all those things.
Nobody is paying attention. You know, my letters and that I'm sending stores, because one of the statements was I'll be in the top 25 stores in the country within 6 months. That was part of the presentation to my husband, and that was a total lie. So I asked my kids to help me, to teach me how to use Instagram, and they thought that was very, very funny. And so they taught me how to use it, and it was. The response from that point was almost instantaneous. Our stores came from that. Our customers came from that. I mean, it was insane. I mean, it was very fast.
What was your vision for jewelry?
They're locks and chains they were claspless chains. So chains that had no lock, no clasp on them in the traditional sense, and that it was all turned around, that the clasp was the main story, and that they would be our locks, and we could make them in myriad ways. And then it just went from there. And I do believe that creativity is like a muscle. Like, once we got going, we really got going.
Tell me some of the challenges when you started the business.
The challenge was figuring out how to make the jewelry at the level. I had an idea in my head that I wanted it to be made like the finest jewelry in the world. And how to access that kind of expertise, that was very challenging. And once I had made the jewelry, it was very challenging to get the attention of stores. Like, even though I would write a great letter and I would send photos, and I thought it would be super easy. I thought I could throw all my marketing skills at it and I would win. Like, that would be, again, obviously, where I said, that would be the easy part, right? Yeah. But that's not the easy part. That was the very hard part, because it's a code, right? The luxury fashion world, it's closed. It's closed to a new person. It would be closed to a middle-aged woman who shows up and says, "Oh, I have a great jewelry line. Let me show you." I mean, imagine. You can just see their eyes rolling. And that's really what happened. So I had to find another way in.
And what was the way?
It was Instagram. I mean, Instagram was like how I found my way in, you know, by posting, and, you know, my kids making fun of me when I would post something and that it was really ugly or it was horrible. But little by little, it happened very quickly, you know, not quickly, but it happened. There was momentum.
It did happen quickly.
Yeah.
And you can, that's what I love the internet. Like, that's what's amazing about the internet. I could never get enough of Wallo and Gillie. Wallo and Gillie are a perennial favorite. The reason I love Wallo and Gillie is I think they are so true. They're so authentic to who they are. They're so unapologetic about where they've been and so ambitious about where they're going. Okay, guys, so what's going on with $1 million?
$1 million worth of game. We're just grinding, man. That's all it is. Like we're always in baby phase. We always in baby mode. You know what I mean? Because we understand the world don't know what's going on yet with us. So we just always like just in the grind, like in the ground with it.
Do you think the world knows more now? I do. I feel like you're everywhere.
No, I think they getting to know because, you know, a lot of people just don't know because people got real life going on. And a lot of people not tapped in and they already locked into certain things. But as every week it grow. So, you know, I'm always like, you know where I am. I'm always thinking of new ideas like, yo, cuz, we got to do this. Yo, cuz, we got to do this different. Well, we got to do this. We got to change this up. Because it's like, I always feel as though like we're still toddlers in the game. I love that feeling. I love it. You know, because some people, when they hit their peak, they done.
Yeah.
You see people out here, they just stop. It ain't going nowhere else. They done already maxed out and they already hit. Oh, night.
That's mine.
Yes.
They made that for me.
Yes. That's a legendary jacket.
It is a legendary jacket.
Yes.
Surprised somebody hasn't stolen it from me.
Yeah.
Gillie, what do you think?
Well, I think that we just gonna keep, you know, staying 10 toes down, being humble, and keep pushing the culture forward. You know, it's a reason why we connect with the youth, the middle age, and the older people is because we giving out game, and that's guidance, attention, motivation, and education. And we're older people that understand that we want to embrace the youth, the people that's going to own tomorrow. You know, the future CEOs, the next Erika, the next Dave, the next Gillie, the next Wallo. We like to get in bed and have a marriage with the future. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we get a lot of people that's older, but us, we focus on the youth and trying to keep them out of prison and trying to guide them in the right directions and showing them that it's more to life out here than what we just think it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's what our whole brand is about, giving back to the youth, giving them game, giving them knowledge, at the same time making them laugh, making them get in tap with different emotions, you know, because we make them cry, we make them laugh, we make them think, and then we give them content that they can really appreciate. So for us, we just want to remain humble through the whole process and just keep pushing the culture forward.
And it's not even like content, it's just we documenting our journey.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, sometimes content is some shit that people is trying to make up and figure out and do all this deep shit. And they just be like, we just shoot and just, you know, you can just catch us in the day and see what we doing. So, you know, it's just easy for us.
So why do you say thank God for the internet?
When I was in jail, right, I got caught with a cell phone, multiple cell phones, right? So when I first got it, I told you know how I felt. When I realized Google could Google, I was just like blown away. So it was like, thank God for the internet, because like it enhanced me in so many ways. Like that is my go-to. If I want to know something, this is not like back in the day. You remember back in the day, if a president is going, that you got to believe what you hear. You can't do your own personal research, so it's like anything that's going on, a game, you want to know a product, somebody got you, just go on the internet and it can help you and it help you connect with more people. I'm about connecting with people, and that's what's so great about it. And then it's like these platforms, it's like you got like you could take YouTube or wherever, Instagram, and you got your own platform, you got your own media company, and it's like all in your pocket. Yeah. That's fucking everything to me. You know what I mean? So, and I don't think people look at it like that's why I feel as though me personally, from being in prison all that time, coming home, I feel like a immigrant or a refugee. Yeah. That come over here and be like, oh,
you're just trying to learn the language.
Y'all playing games over here. Y'all don't fucking even understand the benefits of life y'all got. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it every day. When I wake up, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna kill them today because they don't know what the fuck's going on.
The longer you've been out of prison, do you find that the gratitude and the season, does it wane at all, or is it getting bigger?
But one thing about him is like, it never burn out. It always be like, I'm always more excited. I'm always thankful. I'm always happy because I'm always like, every day I still be waking up and I go somewhere to do something. I'm like, oh my God, they don't know what the fuck is going on out here. Because people don't. Because a lot of people, which is different than me, they've been beat down by life and they became jaded with life and their imagination started to fade. See, I like being green. See, green always win because green is not always green. That's why green always win. And what's so great about green is you don't know, so you just do what the fuck ever, and you don't have no structure or no boundaries put on. See, life, if I came out of jail 37, so that whole 20s and the 30s, when the average person was getting beat up by life, relationships, falling in love, falling out of love, family things, trying to get a job, that was beating their ass down. So now they got experience and their imagination start to fade. So now
they're in the box.
See, now they're in the box of, I can't do that. Me, I'm like, I could jump off this fucking roof and land on the car and I'll be all right.
Which you're going to be doing.
We was getting beat down by life, He was just getting beat by his celly, so it was a little different.
See this, he's lying on me.
But so do you think prison is a great thing that happened to you?
Prison is the greatest thing that happened to it because it saved my life.
Yeah.
It gave me a chance to think. It put me on a timeout, gave me a chance to think, and I could have got killed in the streets of Philadelphia.
But do you think that, like you say, okay, prison saved my life, but do you think sometimes, like, damn, God, you didn't have to give me 20 years. Like, you could have gave me 6. I would have got shit together.
No.
Like,
you know what it is? You know what it is?
You have to be there that long.
I'm saying, you know what? You can't say I want to be able to balance. Oh, I want to be able to request.
That slow alerter.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you cool. You can't request the punishment because you ain't gonna request the blessing. Look at it. Look at me now.
Yep.
So
yeah, but cuz I don't think you had to do 20 years to learn your lesson.
Shit.
I think you might have learned your lesson after maybe about 6 years,
but no,
maybe 7 years. Okay, fuck it, 14 years.
Slow learner.
You've learned your lesson.
Yeah, I'm a slow learner, but it's cool. It's cool though.
Yep.
It's cool because like everything now, I'm just like I ain't got no fucking.
Are you a dead to me person? Are you dead to me? Are you like once you ice someone, you ice someone?
Yeah,
No,
a lot of times.
not me.
That's how I am.
Yeah,
a lot of times I'm like, all right, fuck it. Because I had
You're
to be.
out.
I had to be in the world that I was in because it was bullshit.
Yeah, so black and white. Yeah.
But like even with the positive and always upbeat of what's name, because he'd tell you when people used to come home from prison when I was doing my time and see you, they was like, wow, your cousin up there, he crazy. They used to always say I was crazy because I was happy every motherfucking day in jail. I wasn't mad at nothing. I knew why I was there. I'm like, when I get out, I'm gonna do this. When I get out, I'm gonna do. They was like, yeah, he's crazy. He dreamed too much. They just say I dreamed too much. I'm like, man, fuck that. This technology shit, you could do anything out there. I'm gonna find my way. So you know what I mean? Just like it don't take nothing to be nice and connect with people and be happy. Just don't fuck with me. Because if you fuck with me, I'm gonna cut you off. I don't really care about too much shit. But leave me alone and don't bullshit me. If you want to work with us, you want to do something with us, come and do your thing. Do what you're supposed to do. Because we live in a world where everybody got an angle and everybody is coming based off of how they can position themselves, based off the visibility that we could give them what we do. So it'd be a lot of bullshit.
That's why we love Barstool so much.
Yeah, we love
because
Barstool.
Dave and Erika came to us and
wasn't
said
no
how
bullshit.
we can make this happen.
And they made it happen in 5 minutes.
Made it happen.
Damn.
At a lunch at Devin's
restaurant in Philadelphia.
Very good restaurant.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was good.
Fancy.
So,
yeah.
for us, it's like when you see something that you know, okay, this shit can go. What are you waiting on?
Yeah. Yep.
You pull the trigger, and that's one reason why we feel how we feel about Dave and Erika, because they pulled the trigger. And let's be for real, we got a lot of calls from a lot of motherfuckers before Dave and Erika. All of them. What they was doing, pulling the gun out, but they wasn't pulling the trigger.
You gotta pull that trigger. Yeah, flash. You gotta pull that trigger.
Well, I got the gun on me.
Yeah, pull the trigger, man. Make this shit happen.
No,
Execute.
they actually pulled the trigger, and it didn't take long. It was like, no, let's get this shit done, guys. Let's go. Because one thing about Barstool that I give you guys a lot of credit for, you guys can really measure tomorrow. Where a lot of people
we're feeling it. We're touching
They're
it.
investing tomorrow. A lot of people are just worrying about today, and they can't even see. They can't even visualize what it's going to look like 3 years from now.
A lot of companies
like
are like horses with the blinders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can only see right what's in front of them. You know what I'm saying? You got to take them blinders off and be able to see your peripheral vision to understand that, no, it's other things going on around other than what I just see straight. And Barstool is great at measuring tomorrow.
Next up, we have Jenna Lyons. I am still trying to get Jenna Lyons to be friends with me. Jenna Lyons is the former creative director of J.Crew. She's an entrepreneur. She founded a company called LoveSeen, which helps women wear fake eyelashes. They're amazing if you haven't tried them. And she talks to us about going through change in your career, embracing who you are, and being vulnerable.
the one thing that happens when you don't have a job is that you're just more open. And I think, I originally, when I left J.Crew, I thought, well, I'm just going to go and do another fashion job.
Yeah.
And that was sort of what I had anticipated. And then it didn't happen. I didn't get any phone calls, like literally no one called.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of a panic. And
Yeah.
and so I just started talking to people and started taking meetings and started taking lunches. And I was open to anything. And along the way,
Were you feeling badly about yourself?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not the I mean, it's...
But I think it's really important because I read an article about you where you were saying like you left J.Crew, the phone stops ringing. Like everybody says that, but until you experience it, I think it's very lonely. And you were saying, I loved how you described it, where you were like, I had all this ambition of I'm going to cook this, I'm going to be a great mom, I'm going to start 70 companies, which you ended up doing. But you were like, I just sat on the couch.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really... I don't know how I can describe it. It was a little bit like feeling sort of swept under a tidal wave where I had worked so hard for so long. I mean, I don't know if I can describe what my life was like.
Yeah, I believe it.
I was sitting, over 3 businesses. So it was Madewell, J.Crew, and Factory. So I was on the design side of all of those. So we're seeing 3 teams of creative, 3 teams of, marketing, 3 teams of product design. It was massive, and I was exhausted.
And intense. Yeah.
I was exhausted, and I think when it stopped like a dead stop.
Yeah.
It was my calendar was chock a block every day,
Yep.
every night,
hour.
every hour. I had 3 assistants, 2 people, someone at home helping me, someone cooking for me, someone doing my laundry. Like I
Everything.
had
Staff.
And on top of that, I also broke up with my girlfriend at the very same time. So
Okay.
like my life
So you're
literally
like, bring it life.
I remember sitting on my couch and being like, okay, now what?
I have no one.
And I was really, and the other thing and I know this sounds pathetic, but there's only a few people that can really understand this. I got promoted right when computers were coming into the world. Like when I joined J.Crew, we were using faxes. I was doing everything by hand. I was writing out faxes by hand. We didn't have a computer. I didn't have a computer on my desk. And then I got promoted. And so then I had an assistant. And so I didn't have a computer. And all of the work that I did was visual. I was going to meetings and talking about design. I was picking fabrics. There was no computer involved in my job. So now I leave my job and someone's like, can you send an attachment? I'm like,
oh,
sure.
shit, Jenna, I didn't
Which
think about that.
post office do you want me to go to?
Okay, got it.
Like there was just all this stuff on the computer that I had never done. And, I know how to use an app here and there, but I just am not proficient. And I felt really like disconnected and couldn't do things for myself. And
it probably makes you feel like you can't use your hands. Like you.
When it makes me, it made me feel like I couldn't take care of myself. And that was a really hard,
that's a debilitating way to feel.
Place to be at my age. And, and I had and I didn't cook. I mean, it was just like the list of things I couldn't do was longer than the list of things I could.
And growing by the day. Yes. And
like,
the thing that
sucks.
had given you so much validation that you were so exceptional at went away. Like I give you so much credit just for the strength you showed in that. And then also that you're so honest about it. I think most people try to gloss over that like shit period when something bad happens or you're in a transition or you're like making those lists of how much you suck every day.
Oh, God. I mean, well, I had a really interesting thing happen when I was, I don't know, just sort of my world was just becoming a little bit more public. There was an article written by New York Magazine by a writer named Molly, and I'm going to forget her last name, but I loved her. And she was pretty, like, she dug and she wanted to know things, and she talked and she was like, can you tell me about your genetic disorder? I was like, wow, how did you know that? I had never talked about it openly. And I finally just was like, I have nothing, like, why not?
What am I hiding?
Like, who cares? And I did, and I could not believe the outpouring of support and love, and also people who were like, thank you for being honest and being vulnerable. And I realized that got me far more sort of healthy, loving accolades than anything else I had done. And I think people like are human and they are faulted.
Flawed.
And they feel like deeply shamed about something in their life, or are scared or embarrassed, or like that they're not perfect. And sometimes when you actually do allow people to see that you have that too, particularly if you've actually achieved something that maybe they want to achieve, that can feel connected.
That's a really powerful thing.
It can provide connection in a way that no matter how many like beautiful dresses I may have been a part of, that doesn't give the same connection as feeling like, oh, you were vulnerable and honest and like shared something that made me feel like less afraid or less alone.
Yeah, or that I relate to you and that I'm struggling in the same way,
Totally.
because I know the article you're talking about, and I read it at a very dark time, and I really loved that article.
What was your dark time?
I don't talk about it here. I'm not at your stage yet. We can talk about it offline.
Okay.
Shit, this was a great moment on the podcast that we're not going to have. We will have it, though, at some point. And then I'm going to have Jenna back. Okay, wait. So what are the lessons like? So the thing that makes me mad when I read about you is
All right.
everybody just talks about how the Obamas wore the dresses to the inauguration, which I love. I love Michelle Obama's style. I loved your style. I wore you for like 20 years. But I think what you're sharing now, though, is so much more interesting. Like, so what are the lessons of Jenna Lyons' life?
I mean, I would say probably the thing that I gained the most from going through some of that hard stuff is a sense of humility, and also like there's not a single person in the room that isn't struggling. Like that I have yet to meet someone who doesn't have some dark thing underneath their desk that they're afraid of or that they're struggling with. It could be, family related, child related. It could be love related. It could be aspirations. It could be, there's so many things. And when you remember that, like, it makes you a more human leader. It makes you a more connected boss. It makes you a more like understanding team member, because you're not like, there's this assumption that like everyone's like kicking it out of the park, and it just is not the case. Like I was not at all times, and my team wasn't either. Like it was like everyone rotated. There was always someone who was going through something, and then they would come back up. But having that sensitivity, I think, made me really proud of everyone on my senior team I worked with for like some of them for 20 plus years.
I remember reading this.
And I think that's that was what allowed me to do what I did. Yeah. I don't think I could have done it. I know I couldn't have done it without them. Yeah. And so like that part of my experience growing up made me a different, I think, probably type of a boss.
Yep. Were you happy when you were at J.Crew?
I mean, I was there for 27 years. So there were definitely moments.
Sometimes.
There were some good moments and there were some really bad moments. I mean, I think the thing that is hard to explain to people is like, over 27 years, that company was 5 different companies. It was not one company. It was mom and pop when I got there, run by Emily and her father. Then we, transitioned into, we had a president, and that was a different era when she was sort of transitioning out. Then we were purchased by TPG, and that was the early stages of, that venture and that sort of time period. And then we had multiple CEOs, and then Mickey joined. So they were all really different, very different experiences. So it was like 5 different jobs.
And what do you think your gift was in making it 27 years?
That's a good question. I think, first of all, when I think back to the beginning stage, when I was there at the beginning, like I was a diehard. I mean, this was early days. Like J.Crew was the only catalog. I remember when I joined, like you had to write your order on a slip and then send in a check.
Send it in.
With a check.
I was doing that.
Yeah.
For like a heather gray sweater that I'm still looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll never love a sweater the way I loved the heather gray. I forget the word. You probably named it, but.
Well, I don't know. It depends on, I do love a color name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, I loved it. I was an absolute diehard. Emily was putting like Christy Turlington and Linda Evangelista in the catalog. And I was like, them modeling a t-shirt that was the coolest thing and sort of very, groundbreaking.
It was
honestly.
disruptive. Yeah,
it really was.
And it was shocking in a way.
Yeah. And it was so exciting to be there. And, and then I fell in love. I fell in love with the team. I fell in love with the people. And then when things got bad, I started to get promoted, which is a weird time to get promoted when things are bad. And then what happens is all of a sudden your team is like, I gotta go because this sucks. And I'm like, no, please don't go. And they're like, well, are you gonna stay? I'm like, yes, I'm gonna stay. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I have to actually stay.
Yeah, 100%.
Gotta actually see this through. Yeah. And so what happened was I started to, feel like a sense of responsibility and obligation and also like loyalty to the people who I wanted to see it through and I wanted it to change. So then I didn't feel like I could leave. And then Mickey joined. And then I was like, I'm not going anywhere. This man is amazing. And so I think part of it was, tenacity, and part of it was just like good old fashioned like stick to itiveness. Like there wasn't really a great time to go, and not only that, but in the dark times nobody would have hired me anyway. Yeah, right. And then when Mickey joined, I was like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere. And then he locked me off the contract, and it didn't matter. I couldn't go anywhere anyway.
You've talked about fashion and design as an armor. Yes. And talk about LoveSeen. Like, is that like? Do you think about lashes as armor? I kind of do.
I mean, I think it's interesting. When I first started it, it became from a very natural place, which is I don't have any eyelashes myself because of my genetic disorder. And so I noticed them on other people. And
doesn't it really piss you off when you see a woman with amazing, regular, normal, their very own eyelashes? It's Daniela Catenacci has the best eyelashes I've ever seen. It pisses me off to no end every day. It's just not right.
I have like I triple down because anything related to skin, hair, and teeth, I'm like,
you're obsessed with. Totally.
Oh, I know, like to the point where it's a little obnoxious.
I also hate when men have great eyelashes because
I know what are they doing with them? What are they doing?
Waste.
What are you guys doing with your eyelashes? I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, that I think any kind of, adornment is some sort of like you're either telling a story or you're putting on some sort of an armor. I think anything that kind of can metamorphosize or change the way you see yourself in the mirror can be really powerful, and that can give you whatever it is that you need.
Yep.
And I think, particularly with Zoom, I've been wearing them more and more because I look at myself in the face and I'm like, oh, hi. It's like, I like it. I love the way it feels.
That's great.
And, and it does, there's something flirty about eyelashes. And I think, when, batting your lashes is something I've never really been able to do. And so that you don't realize it until you have them. You're like, oh, this is kind of.
Yeah, you're like, it's like Bambi. Where you're just like,
hi.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also like that there's so many. Like, I had gotten a kit from LoveSeen, I guess it was this summer, and I loved, like, it was overwhelming to me a little bit because I don't have great eyelashes, and then I'm like, I don't know how to do anything, so it's like they'd be like half off and whatever. But it's like you can have so many looks. The same woman can be so many different people. I also spoke to the guys from Spittin Chiclets. We talked about how their brand has grown, what they're doing as individuals, how they think about Barstool Sports, and what they're doing even beyond hockey and moving into soccer and golf. All right, so we've got the Chiclets guys. Granelli, I heard you had some stats to share. I would look at you, but I can't right now.
Well, not stats. I came prepared.
All right, well, let's go. What do you got?
2019, we did an interview with you. You asked us, what is the future of Chiclets? I jumped in. I said video. And I think we've gone, and at that time we had no video, and I think we've gone pretty heavy into video.
Isn't that insane? That's no video.
So that's what I wanted to.
We had no video in 2019.
We didn't have much. We had the West Coast Wagon Tour, and that was just about it.
Now we got mad subscribers on YouTube, right?
We have a whole series, a whole golf series. Now we got golf sponsors. I'm just making you guys money.
How would you guys describe the Chiclets world? Like, describe for people who listen to this what the Chiclets world is.
The Chiclets world. How do we describe that? I don't know. It's a clown show. I think all three of us are completely different. We all have different opinions and different way to say things. And then when we get together once a week, so we were twice a week, and our show's become a lot better since we went to one because it's a really long episode. You can break it up throughout the week, but it's more like there's so much every week to talk about that I think it's taken us a little bit, I don't know, to the next level, but I think it's improved.
Will you keep one episode even deep into the playoffs?
No. So starting in a week for the end of the first round and probably the whole second round, we're doing 2 episodes a week, I think, for 2 weeks. So at least when there's a lot to catch up on, like we could be doing it now, but with ads and how they were sold, it ends up being 2 weeks at the end of the first round.
Yep. What do you think the world is?
It's been good. It's been a blast. I mean, obviously the hockey climate is changing drastically with the all these networks picking up the games. Playoffs have obviously spoken for themselves. But as far as our brand's concerned and our fan base, it's continuing to grow. As G said, we're cranking out the video components. Yeah, I don't know. You kind of put me on the spot with that question. I don't really know how to answer that.
Okay,
I'll say this though, like, hockey's in the best place it's ever been in, and I think we got super lucky in terms of these young superstars are coming, McDavid, Matthews, and it's growing, and the league's getting bigger and going back to ESPN, so it's perfect timing for us to really, we've already grown to have such a fan base that now I think hockey's going to get bigger in the next few years with the new TV, and it's really good for us to already be in.
Do you think, so I think that Chiclets is the most beloved, engaging, influential brand in hockey, period. That's how I describe it. I think you there's this alchemy in the show, which is like chemistry, just FYI for the...
What do you call it?
Alchemy.
Alchemy.
Yeah.
New word.
Yep. Let's go. But
I
it's
can't even
like,
spell it to look it up on Google.
But anyways, like the fan perspective, former player perspective, there's the comedy perspective. I think the thing that Grinelli, to your point, that I'm most excited about is like it started as a podcast. It was pure hockey. Now it's golf. Now it's comedy. It's Canada. It's a vodka. Like it's gaming. I think the gaming thing is huge. I think that there's something about you guys that make people want to come along with you, which I think is the best thing about Barstool, is just like people want to come along for the ride. And you've done that in hockey in the US and Canada. I think you can do it around the world. And I actually think you're taking it to other places. If I were to look 3 years from now, I would say this will be a very big international brand, not just a North American brand.
Well, there you go. You get your Ireland trip covered.
You can open a Dublin office.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, so I do have a question though. Do you think that the rights do you think the change in the rights deal is going to have that much of an impact on the sport?
Maybe not immediately, but I think over the course of that TV deal, being on ESPN and TNT is so big.
I do.
And I think that NBC Sports Network, right? It's on all the cable packages, but you don't go into bars and NBC Sports is on, ESPN's on. And it's just because of that, you're going to look at more coverage from ESPN in the sports centers with Scott Van Pelt. And just basically eyes will see the game, and they're not only going to see the game, they're going to see these like McDavid, like some of these guys now. With less hitting, I will say the game's more entertaining because of how fast and quick everything's gotten. So better TV rights along with the game being in the place it's in. The only issue we have is when you say we're beloved, I completely agree. We have an amazing fan base. But as we get bigger, more haters come and more people that don't like that we talk about the physicality in hockey and how hockey's a violent game. There's many people right now that hate that, and they're trying to get that out of the game, where our show is so into like, this is hockey, this is how we grew up with it, and we won't change. So we have some people now that get upset with us in terms of that, but we stick to our guns, and we know that it's like a vocal minority when they do come at us online, and our fan base overall thinks the same way about hockey that we do.
And so do the players.
And so do the players.
They vote on the
players say to us, I get messages, I talk to players like, so happy you guys are like back in this and back in that and not giving in to this culture, that's maybe a little soft.
So there's like a soft culture with, like, personally, I think
crazy.
women's hockey would be more interesting if they could check one another and beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I think more people would watch.
I think women's hockey on a whole has made some mistakes, and it's getting better. I think it's, if not now, it was the fastest growing sport in the country for women.
Youth, it still is.
And so I think there's been some issues. Obviously, what they did with you was bullshit, but I think that you're right in terms of physicality. It brings eyes. It doesn't matter if people hate it. It doesn't matter if they see concussions and talk about what happens to guys when they retire. Every guy signs up and knows what they're doing.
I mean, you talk to enough of the girls. Do they want to add the contact?
I mean, Babs sure does, but that's...
Yeah. Well, that's a little biased.
Yeah, that's like Babs wants to play wants to play mini hockey in the hallway with checking. Like, she's looking to hit anyone.
Wait, so it's interesting though. So do you feel like how do you guys feel different now than you did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago? Like, because the pod, what
do you think?
Well, RA was the OG here.
Different in what regard?
Because I'll give you an example, like how Barstool was when I got here in 2016 was probably way different than it was for Dave in 2009 or for you guys. And now I think we're like radically different than we were in 2016. Some of it's good and some of it's not good.
I mean, I think we've been pretty consistent. I think we've just kind of grown up, brand, name, whatever you want to call it. I think we've been on a pretty steady pace, just upward, like slowly upward as far as us.
I think that when the move to New York happened and you were hired, I remember being like, wow, they're in New York. Like, how much bigger can they get? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm from Massachusetts, so it was enormous to begin with. But now if you look at the beginning in New York and how many employees are here and how many new shows, and I was like, how could they grow anymore? It's not even the same world as when they came to New York. Mm-hmm. And I was a fan in Milton, so it's like this whole company, and I know what you mean. Some things are worse, where it's like the bigger you get, the more people on the other side too. The more you have to think about the opposite reaction. You can't just do always whatever you want, say always whatever you want. That's exactly what I've said to Biz, in that it kind of bums me out at times. You can't say certain things anymore in that, like, oh, we have a sponsor, so I can't talk about that because that's not a sponsor. And then, like, when we're doing the gambling caves, you can't say certain words. It's like, hold on. When RA and I started this, it was just, you were slinging it. You were oblivious to everything. And now, not only on the show, and luckily we're not live. Like, I don't know if I could handle the live aspect, but even recording, it's like, that slight pause in thinking what you're saying, it does change your entire vibe in terms of recording, because you do have to think before you speak, and we did not have to do that before.
Thank you to everyone. Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2022.